Hi there. Yes, Blackmagic Design have released a successor to DaVinci Resolve 18 called, reassuringly, DaVinci Resolve 19. Now at the moment version 19 is what we call in public beta and version 1 of that as well. This means that all of the features aren't necessarily fully integrated yet. However, it gives us a chance to get hands-on with the software, although we are likely to see several of these public betas over the next few weeks before the software is released properly. In the meantime though, here are some of my thoughts on some of the new features announced that would benefit editors. The first thing to mention if you're test driving Resolve 19 is that whilst you don't need to update your project libraries from Resolve 18, individual projects will be updated. This means that once you've opened a project in 19, if you need to go back for any reason, then you won't be able to reopen it in 18. Now at the moment there's no specific warning about this in the software apart from in the release notes. So please be careful and remember to back up your projects. The good news is that making a duplicate of any local databases is much easier. Just right-click on the project library and choose Duplicate. Select or create a new empty folder on your system and choose Open. Resolve will now create a copy of the current project library and automatically connect to it. You can now use this cloned project library to safely test drive the new beta functions. So what's new? Well, thankfully, previewing and configuring audio in your source clips has now become much easier. A new audio configuration section in the Info tab in the inspector shows all the clip's audio channels and current configuration. Simple channel configuration presets can be accessed here. Each channel can be independently skimmed and played so you can preview it.
Developing the chassis was a really important part of the project.
You can also disable or mute individual channels. Muted channels will be automatically disabled when edited into the timeline, whereas disabled channels simply won't be edited into the timeline at all. And you can use this feature for multiple selected clips. For greater control, the audio can still be configured the old way using clip attributes. If you've ever used Final Cut Pro at all, you'll probably find this feature vaguely familiar, but at the moment it's just for clips in the media pool, it's not for clips in the timeline. However, there have been other updates in the way that we sync audio and video clips together as well. The functionality is pretty much the same, just with some extra options. As before, right-click the clips or the bin containing the clips that you want to sync and choose Auto Sync Audio. A new dialog window opens where you choose to sync using waveform or timecode. When using waveform, you can now choose which of the video clip's source channels that you want to use for the sync. That's especially useful if you use different mic inputs for the reference audio. Alternatively, you can use a mix of the embedded audio or allow Resolve to automatically choose the best option. Retain embedded audio is the new append track option. Once completed, synced audio channels will then be available in the audio configuration panel in the inspector. Sometimes some of the smallest features can often be the most useful, and there's now a handy option for restoring deleted timelines. Let's say for some reason you manage to delete any of your timelines. Now you can quickly restore them from their backups using the Deleted Timeline Backups option in the media pool. Any timelines that have been removed but have backups available will be listed here and can be easily restored. And the Precision Trim Editor is now available in the Edit page. To access this, select an edit point to trim and choose Trim Editor from the Trim menu. Or just double-click the edit point. This opens the new Precision Trim Editor. Here you can use the buttons to make a precise adjustment to the edit, and it's also quite useful because, as you can see, it shows you if you don't have enough handles either side of the edit. Now, I'll be honest, I was never a big user of the trim window in either the old Final Cut Pro or in Premiere Pro, so maybe I won't be using this feature quite that often, although I'm sure there are many of you out there who are going to find it a welcome addition. However, there are a number of audio AI features that have been introduced, which are really quite fun. In the edit page, you can access these track effects in the inspector by clicking the specific track header in the timeline. The dialog separator has controls for voice, background and ambience, allowing you to reduce or mute either element.
My name is Chris Lang and I'm the founder of Warrior Mountain Outfitters. We are located in our store in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
The music remixer in the studio version uses AI to give you control over various parts of the mix.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire.
Now I can see myself using this a lot to quickly change the feel of a piece of music, especially if an instrumental version of a track isn't immediately available. Finally, and being careful to pronounce it correctly, the Ducker can be used to easily mix audio in one track against audio in another track without using keyframes.
My name is Chris Lang and I'm the founder of Warrior Mountain Outfitters. We are located in our store in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Now I can see this being useful for simple timelines, but at the moment you can only target one track rather than a bus, so it's a little limited for timelines with complex dialogue tracks.
The food, the landscapes. That's what really inspires us, and we take that inspiration and we bring it back to the store, and that's really where the design process starts.
And because I practice what I preach, and in fact I'm editing this episode in DaVinci Resolve 19, I actually use the Ducker on the last two examples where you were listening to the audio from my computer system in the screen capture. However, there's also another feature which I think might be useful, which is the ability to be able to edit Fusion titles directly in the viewer. Let's add a Fusion title to the timeline here. Previously, if I wanted to change anything about this title, I'd have to go to the inspector. Now though, I just enable the Fusion overlay controls in the viewer, so I can now select and edit the text and move it around on screen. Sure, it might seem to be a bit of a basic feature, particularly because we've been able to do this sort of stuff in other nonlinear editors for quite some years. However, if you've got your own set of templates and graphics that you need to be able to quickly add and edit, then I think this can be a real time saver. And another time saver that I think is worth mentioning is the updated version of the transcription feature for Resolve 19. Now I use the transcription in Resolve 18 all the time for my videos, so I'm really excited to be able to get to grips with these new features. As before, to create a transcription, you'll need DaVinci Resolve Studio. Just select the clips and right-click the transcription button to enable the speaker detection option for the project. Then click again to start the transcription. Once completed, you'll see the timecode, speakers and the actual transcription in this new layout. You can assign names to the identified speakers by double-clicking their labels. You can also choose to edit the list of speakers and reassign parts of the transcription to different speakers. The list of speakers is valid for the current project so long as the speaker detection option remains active. One of the features that I did find interesting though is we now have the ability to be able to export and import transcriptions using standard subtitle files. From the options menu in the top right, you can now choose to export the transcription as subtitles. I'll give this an output file name and location and choose Create. Let's go back to the media pool and choose another clip from the same take that has the same timecode as the original. I'll right click this clip and choose Audio Transcription, Import from Subtitles. I'll select the subtitle I've just exported and click Open. And Resolve will build a usable transcription from that subtitle.
My name is Chris Lang and I'm the founder of Warrior Mountain Outfitters. We are located in our store in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Now, of course, this transcription won't have any of the speaker information, and it's not as accurate as using Resolve's transcription feature itself. But it is interesting that you can get a reasonable transcription up and running very quickly by using a standard file. As before, you can navigate through the clips using the transcription and search for words and phrases. Dragging across a text will highlight that part of the clip using in and out points, which can be used to create a subclip or edit the marked clip directly into the timeline using Insert, Append and Now Place on top. If you press X, the current sentence is selected, which is a nice touch. But the real power comes into play once you've got transcribed clips in the timeline, especially if you're looking to create a sync pull of an interview. Switching the transcription window to the new timeline mode shows the transcribed clips in the timeline. Here you can now instantly remove all the silent portions of the clips, or highlight a portion of the transcript to remove just that portion from the timeline. And ensuring you're in trim edit mode makes this operation a ripple delete. The transcription window also provides some basic functions like cut, copy, paste, but it's not like moving blocks of text around. Instead, I found it easier to use the transcription as a navigation tool, using the ripple cut and paste insert commands to reorder the transcription. All in all, there's a lot to get to grips with this new version of DaVinci Resolve. And over the next few weeks, I'll be exploring some of these features in a little bit more depth. So I'll look forward to letting you know how I'm getting on. Until then, thanks very much for watching. Don't forget, subscribe and like. And until next time, take care.